Welcome to the Nicholas 11x12 technology. Today I decided to do a quick comparison with a cheap and an expensive IPS LED monitor. The cheap one being the Dell ultra-sharp U2312HM 23-inch on the left, which costs around $170 and on the right, the expensive one, the ASO FlexScan EV2455 24.1-inch for about $490. So the price difference indeed is quite big, but is there that much of a difference when it comes to the monitors too? Let's find it out. Let's start with the ergonomics. Both monitors I'm comparing here today come with very similar ergonomic features. However, mostly a cheap IPS monitor doesn't come with a lot of ergonomics. Both monitors have the swivel feature. The cheap one, however, doesn't really offer many degrees here, whereas the expensive one offers 344 degrees and doesn't require that much force. Both monitors can tilt. The cheap one can tilt down 4 degrees, the expensive one 5. The cheap one can tilt up 21 degrees, the expensive one 35. Both monitors offer height adjustment. The cheap one can go up to about 170mm, whereas the expensive one can do 140mm. However, we have to be careful here. The cheap one is a 16:9 screen, the expensive one a 16:10 screen. The cheap monitor can go down to about 45mm. The expensive one can do about 10mm though. Both monitors can pivot. The cheap one can do 90 degrees on the right only, whereas the expensive one can do 90 on the left, as well as 90 degrees on the right. The build quality and mechanisms feel much sturdier on the expensive monitor and is much smoother. So in terms of ergonomics, the expensive one is the clear winner. However, ergonomics is not exactly what everyone needs. It's not worth it to pay that much more money just for the ergonomics in my opinion. So let's see what's up with the video signal inputs. The cheap one offers 1 DVI, 1 DisplayPort, and 1 VGA input. The expensive one offers 1 DVI, 1 DisplayPort, 1 HDMI, and 1 VGA input. 1 input more. Now let's take a look at the image quality. In terms of backlight bleeding, it's pretty much at high. But this is always depending on the specific model. Each monitor is different. The cheap one shows some of that famous IPS glow. The expensive one shows very little of it. Display uniformity pretty much is at high. Black levels at high. Contrast test pretty much at high. Gradient test, clearly the expensive one is the winner. The cheap one shows some bands. It should be all smooth. White saturation test at high. Sharpness test, the expensive one wins. In the clock/face calibration test, at high. Alright, now a completely white image. Which monitor can display a wider white? The expensive one wins. The cheap one has a bit of a more reddish tint to it. Color accuracy, expensive one wins. The current image is a good example for the sharpness as well. The cheaper monitor isn't as sharp. The viewing angles pretty much at high. The response time is a bit worse on the cheaper one, therefore less ghosting on the expensive one. Both monitors pretty much offer the same brightness level. However, at brightness 45, the cheaper monitor consumes about 17 watts, the expensive one 11 watts. Now let's take a look at the Osd menus. Both Osd menus are good, however the cheaper monitor doesn't offer as many customization options and settings as the expensive one, and same goes for the special power saving features. Well, there certainly are many reasons to spend a little more money on the expensive one. However, in terms of price-performance ratio, most of the time you're better off with the cheaper one. Still, if you want a premium monitor with lots of features, better image and build quality overall, you will indeed have to go for an expensive one. Whether it's worth it for you to spend more or not, of course, is your decision. I hope this video could give you a better idea on the differences between cheap and expensive IPS monitors. However, every cheap, as well as every expensive monitor is different than you've seen in this video. It all depends on the manufacturer and model. This is just a basic video on what differences you could expect. Oh, and just in case you're interested in that expensive ASO EV2455 monitor, you can click here to watch my full review of it. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and visit nicholas11x12techx.com to see videos there earlier than on YouTube. Also say no to ad blockers in order to support me and to make future videos possible. Thank you.